You've entered the Houston Running Zone, the ultimate podcast for runners in the Houston area, featuring the everyday runners who inspire us, clubs, gear, races, and runcations. Houston, we've got the runs.
All right, today in the zone, I have a real treat for you guys. This hand cyclist is the winner of the Houston Marathon, two-time winner of the Boston Marathon, and guess what? That's just the beginning. She was the first solo hand cyclist to do the race across West, or RAW. That's what they call it. I found out from Oceanside, California to Durango, higher elevation, Colorado, over 900 miles, is Wendy Larson. Wendy, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be great. And I kind of want to jump right into it because we see hand cyclists.
Yes.
For most of us, and we see all zooming across, and we always kind of want to know the story, like, how'd you get into hand cycling? Because every time that I haven't run the Houston Marathon, I've always volunteered, and I love, seeing, different athletes, whether it's hand cyclists, runners, walkers, all the thing. And I briefly looked at your blog from 2006, or kind of, I guess it was kind of like the About Me. We'll put a link to it, of course. In 2006, you kind of had an event that kind of changed your life, I should say. And is that what kind of got you into hand cycling? Kind of take us back, 17 years ago?
Yeah. So I started out as a runner, and I use the term runner in quotes because when I was running, really, I was moving at a turtle's pace. I was one of those, I was back of the packers. I got swept from races. I DNF'd. But I was out there moving, and I was crossing finish lines, but I was slow. So in 2006, I was in a really horrific car wreck, and I spent 3 weeks in Memorial Hermann Trauma Center. It took an hour and a half to cut me out of the car. I had to be life flighted, took 15 surgeries to reconstruct my leg. We kind of thought I was going to lose my leg for a while, but I didn't. And yeah, it was really bad. I'm really, really lucky to have survived that wreck. So I was born with several rare genetic diseases. I never was athletic growing up. I was told by doctors constantly I couldn't participate in sports. I would try to do sports, and every time I'd promptly get injured, I'd get hurt. I spent a lot of time in and out of the hospital as a kid. So I got a lot of no's growing up, and doctors constantly telling me, no, I couldn't do this, and no, I couldn't do that. So I had this really horrific car wreck in 2006. And after I finally got out of the hospital and I was meeting with my surgeon for the last time, we were going over my long-term prognosis and outlook. He kind of very sarcastically off the cuff said, well, you'll probably walk again, but you'll never run a marathon. And I cannot explain what clicked in my head, but that was kind of the moment where I just had enough. I'd had enough of people telling me no and telling me I couldn't do things, and doctors specifically telling me no and telling me I couldn't do things. And so I decided I was going to run a marathon. So it took me about a year to learn to walk again. I was in a wheelchair, and then, graduated to a walker and then a cane, and, a year of PT, I finally started walking again. And then I decided to start training for a half marathon. So I started, in 2007, I started training, and I started doing 5Ks and then worked my way up to 10Ks. And then it was 2010 was my first half marathon, and that was at the Houston half.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's how I started actually running. But then eventually over time, these rare diseases, they're degenerative, and things got more and more difficult. And it got to a point where I was a danger to myself. I have a rare genetic connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, where the connective tissue in my body is faulty. Instead of everything stretching out and snapping back into place like a rubber band, like ligaments and tendons and all should do. Mine just stretch out. So that over time became more and more of an issue. My knees started dislocating. I developed something called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which means that if I stand up, I pass out. So it was a cascade of one thing after another. And it eventually led to a spinal cord injury because my spine became so unstable that one of my vertebrae, it broke loose, it fractured, and it went kind of down over the top of the other one. And so I developed a spinal cord injury. So that was actually fairly recently. That was just like 3 years ago that happened. But eventually I came to the realization with the help of one of my physical therapists that I needed to find something other than running because I was getting myself into a lot of trouble continuing to try to run. And then I, lost my ability to walk. And so I started hand cycling. I guess it was in 2016.
Okay.
So that's how in a nutshell, how I became a hand cyclist. There's a lot more to the story too, but that's just to make it easy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, and then fast forward, you're winning the Boston Marathon. So it like everybody, regardless of situations, they always want something different. Like, oh, I wish I was taller. I wish I was, genetically more, skinny or hair color. Like everyone has something that they want to change.
Yeah.
But you've conquered degenerative diseases, horrific car accidents, negative doctors. And it's not an anti-doctor thing. No, it's like there's good doctors and bad doctors. You just haven't had, the roll of the dice. Like, how do you stay the mindset? Like, how do you not have that victim mentality that would be so easy to just go to? Like, what is getting you off that mentality?
Because I know I have two options. I keep going or I become bedridden, and I think for me, there's no in between. If I wasn't doing what I was doing, I would weigh 300 pounds and be stuck on my couch for the rest of my life. And I don't want that. So I push myself and push myself and push myself. I've overcome so much that, I've pretty much decided that I can do whatever I want to do. And I just go out there and I'm one of those people, I'm just pretty relentless in tackling my goals or stubborn. It's really
whatever works.
It's a lot of stubbornness, really.
Where did you learn that stubbornness? Don't give up.
I don't know. I think it just came from probably decades of frustration and being told no. And, and some of it, my dad was probably one of the most stubborn people ever. My mom was one of those insane overachiever types. And I think I got a lot of that mentality from my parents. And just, never give up, just keep at it. And I have a phenomenal team of doctors now, that, they get me, they encourage me. They think I'm nuts and they're not afraid to tell me. But they encourage me and are, always there, like when the first time I won the Boston Marathon, my neurologist was, I think, beside my coach and my husband, my neurologist was like the first person to message me and congratulate me. So, they're just super supportive team of doctors. My PM&R specialist is a runner and he's always, encouraging me to get out there and push and, do more. And, they're great. So I have that kind of support. I have the support of my family. So that also it goes a long way into mentally helping me, push myself, knowing that I have all of these people behind me supporting me, with these crazy, insane goals.
So yeah, just find a new doctor. And if you don't have stubborn parents, there's plenty of stubborn people you can find that are,
I don't know.
no
It's
holds
just,
barred.
I wish I could bottle it up and, and share it with people. It really is. It's just taking things one day at a time, one step at a time. And, you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. But if you let that discourage you, which a lot of people do, then you're never going to reach that goal, whatever that goal may be. It may be your first 5K. It may be your first 10K. It may be, qualifying for Boston, but you've got to get back up. Everybody is going to fall down. My gosh, I've fallen down so many times, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, you said it, not me. Okay.
But you just have to keep getting back up because you're going to have failures and you're going to have failure after failure after failure before you have those wins. So you've got to just be, persistent and relentless and not let the failures discourage you. Let those motivate you to move forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm thinking that you said you used to be a back of the pack runner, and then obviously changed to hand cycling and everything. But like you didn't have the mindset before of winning or even being on the front of the pack. Like, what was the change when you said like, okay, now I finally found the sport after so many years that really is me? Like, where do you go from okay, I'm gonna be a hand cyclist to okay, yeah, I like to participate to I could really compete and kick some tail?
So I think the very first time I got on a hand cycle, it was life-changing. I mean, quite literally life-changing.
Wow.
I finally found something where I could work with my body instead of against it. So the whole time I was running, I was working against my body. I was just trying so hard to make it do stuff that my body just wasn't going to do. With hand cycling, it was something that my body was actually capable of doing. And I felt like for the first time ever, I was working with my body. And it was just such a sense of freedom for me because I struggled so much, especially the couple of years leading up to it, right before I switched over to hand cycling. I was struggling so much to walk. I was struggling just to stand up. And then I was trying to go out and do these races. So when I got on that hand cycle, it was just like, oh, okay, this is what I am meant to do. And I just knew it just that quick. I was like, okay, this is my life now. And it was just like that. I knew immediately.
So was the goal to go back to the Houston half or the Houston full and conquer it? Or was like, what was that? Okay. That was like the goal, the immediate goal.
Yeah. The goal was to do the Houston Marathon when I started hand cycling. The goal was to do the Houston Marathon. Now, when I first started, I actually ended up connecting with Achilles Houston, which is one of the local groups for athletes with disabilities. The other one I'm a part of is Team Catapult. But I started out hand cycling with Achilles Houston. And I figured it was going to take me probably a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, to work my way up to doing a full marathon distance. And kind of just a few months before the marathon, they had another athlete drop out and they had a bib for a hand cyclist for the full marathon. And they asked me if I wanted to try the full marathon. And I said, sure, I'll do it. I was not expecting much at all. I was out there strictly just to cross that finish line because it was something I never thought I was going to be able to do. Cross a marathon finish line. And I'd had so many doctors for so many years tell me it wasn't ever going to be possible. So that very first race, the goal was just to cross that finish line. And I did. And it was amazing. And I loved every second of it. And I stopped along the race course and I took selfies with my dog because my son brought the dog. My husband was running it that year, I think. So I stopped and I took selfies. It was just the most fun. And then I actually did really well. And I ended up qualifying for the Boston Marathon the very first time. very first race.
Wait, the very first time that you weren't really
Yeah.
planning on, you were kind of forced into doing the marathon? Okay.
It was, I can't explain it. I mean, I think it's just, I love it that much. And as soon as I started hand cycling, it was just, everything was about hand cycling. I just wanted to be on my hand cycle 24/7, basically.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So did you immediately do
Crazy.
Boston once you qualified, or did you wait?
No, it took me years to sign up for Boston.
Okay.
I don't know. I felt inadequate or intimidated because
Interesting.
it never crossed my mind that I would, ever run the Boston Marathon or any of that. And I guess it was actually during COVID, and it was my PM&R doctor that was bugging me about Boston, because in order to participate in the Boston Marathon, you have to get all of this medical paperwork filled out, certifying your disability, and your doctor has to fill it out. And so my PM&R doctor had been kind of, every time I saw him, so are you going to register for Boston? Do you need me to fill that paperwork out? And so finally, I'm like, okay, I had nothing else to do during COVID. So I started training every single day. I'd spend hours and hours on my hand cycle. And so I'm like, okay, I have the time to train. COVID, wasn't working. And so I'm like, okay, fill it out. We'll do this. And then I decided, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to get serious about it. I need to hire a coach. I was very overweight at the time still. And so I hired a dietitian, worked with a registered dietitian to, get down to a healthy race weight. Found an amazing coach who, still my coach today. And got serious about it, and much to everybody's shock, including mine, I went up there and won the first year I did it. And that was 2021. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So you went from a doctor that said you'll never run again to a doctor that says you should probably do the Boston Marathon.
Yeah. Like I said, I have amazing doctors now. They're super supportive of me, super supportive and encouraging. And yeah.
Well, we could spend a long time just talking about that, but that's just the beginning. You just did this thing called Race Across West? Is that the
Race Across the West? Okay. Yes.
I think that's what I finally said. I need to interview you, because over 900 miles, something we don't get at Houston, elevation.
Nope.
What in the world made you do that?
I started getting into, so hand cycles are technically a type of paracycling.
Yeah.
So it is the adaptive side of cycling. You don't see many hand cyclists competing in cycling events, though, because a hand cycle is always going to be slower than an able-bodied upright cyclist. If you think about, you're doing the same exact thing with your arms that cyclists are doing with their legs. So you think about the size of your thighs versus the size of, your upper arms. You've got a lot more muscle in your lower body than you do in your arms. So you can get a lot more power. Power translates to speed on a bike than you can a hand cycle. So for most hand cyclists, you're going to see them competing in running events, like marathons, 5Ks, 10Ks. And then, there's the other side that, you have like the Paralympic pipeline and those paracycling specific races. So I just got it in my head that I wanted to start doing long distances. I love being on my hand cycle. The longer the workout my coach gives me, the happier I am. And so I decided I was going to do a century ride, and really, really enjoyed that. And heard a few years ago about a race called Race Across America. And it's an ultra cycling race, starts in Oceanside, California, ends in Annapolis, Maryland. And it's considered to be the most difficult ultra endurance event on the planet by a lot of people. It's around the clock, straight through. And so I've been kind of, watching this and thinking, wow, that's really cool. And as part of Race Across America, they have Race Across the West. And that is the one that I did. It starts with Race Across America in Oceanside, California, but Race Across the West ends in Durango, Colorado. If you're doing Race Across America, you continue on across the rest of the United States. So about a year ago, I asked my coach, I said, do you think I could potentially do this? Now, the cool thing about my coach is he's one of the top paracycling coaches in the country. But he also coaches some ultracyclists, and he has coached ultracyclists in Race Across America. So he knows both aspects of it. And he said, I think that might be something really good for you to try. So I have a really good friend, training partner that lives in Florida that actually several years back did Race Across America as part of an 8-person team. And so I called him up. I said, hey, do you want to do Race Across the West as part of a 2-person team? And without hesitation, he said, yep, let's do it. So we were going to do Race Across the West as a 2-person team. So, which means we would have split the mileage. Each person, cycles for an hour, swaps off, the other person goes. So, you do that around the clock. He got injured. I didn't have a partner. So the option was do it solo or find another partner. Well, it's hard to find a partner capable of doing that kind of distance without a lot of advance warning. So I asked my coach, I said, do you think I'm capable of doing this on my own? So doing it solo. And he said, if there is any female that can do it, it's you. So I said, okay, done. But we're doing this.
You are in the Houston running zone. We've got the runs.
Just to clarify with everybody, most people use their leg muscles, which are, I guess, at least 2.5, 3 times. I should probably look this up, but
yes,
obviously leg muscles are way stronger normally than your arm muscles. So you overcome that battle. You overcome not having a partner, multiply by 2. So basically everything awesome that's happened is because you were forced to do it. It seems like here's a bib, run a marathon.
I'm going to do it. I'm the person that, presented the challenge. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. I don't know how to say no, I guess. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Let's try it. I mean, what have you got to lose? I'm
just wondering what's next, because whatever's next, it's going to be happening. And you may have to do more than you thought.
So right now, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do Ross solo or with a team next year. So this year, what happened is I finished the distance, but I was not considered an official finisher because I did not meet the time cutoff that they have for able-bodied upright cyclists. They did not give me any time above and beyond what the cyclists get. I got the same amount of time. I came in over the cutoff, so I wasn't an official finisher, but I did finish. I finished the race out. And I've had a lot of discussions with the race directors. They've actually been really great at working with me. They didn't give me any time this year because they didn't know basically what they would even set the time limit at for a hand cyclist. They have
they probably didn't think anybody was crazy enough to do it.
So there was one hand cyclist, so I think in 2017, that did Race Across America solo. So he was in a different type of hand cycle than I was, though. He was in a kneeling hand cycle where you're up over your pedals. I'm recumbent. I'm laying completely flat. So in a recumbent hand cycle, you don't get the same power that you do from a kneeler. You're faster and you get more power in a kneeler because you're using your arms still, but you're sitting upright and you're using your trunk to get power, and you So it's
more of a push, right?
It's more, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you get that trunk power also. In a recumbent hand cycle like I'm in, you don't have any, trunk power that you're able to pull from. So anyway, and no female had ever done that. So they really didn't know, where to even start with the time cutoff for me. So I've talked to them. They're going to give me a little bit of a time extension next year if I decide to do it solo. It's still going to be a big reach. The biggest issue is with getting permits and stuff to allow me even more time. Because, they have a lot of permits to get for this race, as you can imagine, because, it's 930 miles. So I am going to get a time extension. It's still going to be really pushing it to see if I can hit it or not. But so we'll see. I don't know if I do it as a team, I've got a couple of people in mind to do it with that I've been talking to. For sure, I could finish as a team, but I feel like I have unfinished business, and we learned a lot during the race this year. And I feel like we've got room for improvement. My crew and I do, and really want to try it solo again. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm meeting with my coach next week. We're going to decide once and for all what I'm doing next year. And eventually I'm going to do Race Across America too, but I'll probably have to do that as a team. But I'm going to do Race Across America also.
And I just kind of briefly looked at the last couple of blog posts. Do you keep up with your blog a lot, or?
No, I don't.
Kind of a pain.
I need to do that more. I know it's just, I run out of time. Yeah.
Well, the reason I ask is, have you ever thought about doing a book?
Oh, I've thought about it. I've thought a lot about it. I don't have time right now. Maybe eventually someday when I retire from racing, I will. But there actually was a film crew that filmed me during Raw, and they're making a documentary about me doing Raw. So that will be out next year, the documentary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, here's the best part about books. You don't have to really write the book. You can, since you love to talk, you could speak it into Google Docs. That's what most people do. That's what I do.
I know.
And then you just get someone to edit it out. So yeah, think about doing some audios. I don't want to write a book
right now because there's still more left to my story.
Oh, that's true.
It's too soon to write a book.
That's true.
I've got a lot of goals still.
Yeah, but it's the lead up. It's like part 1.
Yes. There you go. Yes.
It doesn't have to see like part 1 of 5. It's like, this is just part 1, the beginning.
Yes.
Like, think about it. I got plenty of contacts. I'm in the book business for my regular business. So I've got plenty of contacts you can tap into.
Someday. Yeah.
I put the bug out there. See, I'm forcing you to do it. Kind of backing up to Boston Marathon, where everybody that wants it, like it's on their mind, and you qualified, and you're like, I don't feel up to it. And you finally do it because the doctors are teaching you, or doctors are kind of highly convincing you to do it. Like when you cross that finish line, like what goes through your mind after that? Because you've come a long way. Like the first time you crossed it, do you remember what was in your mind?
So the first time, funny story, the first time I won it, I crossed the finish line and I wasn't convinced that I actually won. So I like crossed the finish line, and then I'm like looking around, and one of the Achilles International, the president of Achilles International was standing there, and she's all excited. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, did I win? And she's like, yes, you won. Because it's just kind of like, did I really just do that? Really? So yeah, it was kind of crazy. But then you're like, oh my gosh, I really did this. Oh my gosh, I actually did this. It was just, because going into the Boston Marathon, I knew what I was capable of. And I had, my coach and I had talked about, the fact that I could potentially break the course record. But I hadn't told anyone that, because the pressure gets insane
Oh, I'd imagine.
for stuff like that. So I knew if I had a really, really good race that I could potentially win and I could potentially break the course record. So, and I did it, which it was just, and it was on my 50th birthday too, to the day. It was on my 50th
to the
birthday.
day.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you can't get a better birthday than that. I mean, you just can't.
Yeah. What are you going to do for your 100? You got to figure something out.
I don't know. I'll probably do like
years to figure it out.
Century ride or something, do 100 miles for my 100th birthday. It's a good idea. I like that.
Oh, so when did you find out you beat the course record? Like, did they just have it? Like, were they thinking about it or like?
Oh no, I mean, I knew what that course record was, and I knew what my time was. So I knew.
Okay.
So yeah.
And I mean, do you automatically go, I want to come again and try to beat my time? Your mind just like healthy and going all different directions? Like what was the next thing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first I wanted to, to celebrate and, like have some champagne or wine and, something I totally normally wouldn't eat and drink.
Yep.
Because, I watch my diet very closely. You've got to, in order to be able to train the way I do, you just have to watch every single thing you put in your mouth. So, so it was, we had, I think we had champagne and lobster rolls for dinner that night. So, but no, I mean, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to come back. I did this once. Let's see how I can do it again. So it's kind of, yeah.
It's incredible.
So I went back and did it again in 2022. But now it's so weird. You get these goals and then you just keep moving that goalpost and moving that goalpost. So, I didn't even do Boston this year because I was so focused on training for Race Across the West. I signed up and then I had injured my shoulder and we were worried about, going up there and making it worse when I had Race Across the West. So I went ahead and, and I withdrew this year, and I probably won't even sign up for next year because I'm going to be so focused on training for Race Across the West. It's a fun race, but now I have different goals and, bigger things I want to do.
Yeah. You ever wonder, like in 2010, if you go back in time, try to convince yourself?
Oh my God. People have asked me that. It's just would be completely incomprehensible to me in 2010 to think about what I'm doing today. Yeah. I could not even possibly wrap my mind around it. And if you had told me I would be doing what I'm doing today, I would have thought you were just completely off your rocker. It was,
if only time travel, we could just shock ourselves and not mess our future selves up.
I would so shock myself.
Yeah. Boston Marathon, you'd be like, I've been there, done that. Oh yeah. And I won course record. Oh yeah. It's nuts.
It's just weird how your perception of things changes. So, and I try to remind myself, frequently, where I started and, remember like when I'm going to races or when, I don't do a lot of running races anymore. Very, very few, because it just doesn't fit in with my training plan, essentially. But I really enjoy going out and cheering and volunteering. And so I always, when I see people out there running, I try to remind myself that was me, especially those people, that are, at the back of the pack and maybe struggling, because I know what that felt like. And I don't ever want to forget what that felt like, because I think that is so important to keep me grounded, and to remember, just how hard those people are working. In some ways, I feel like I worked harder back then when I was barely crossing finish lines than I do now. And, in some ways, it was such a mental struggle to keep myself going when, you're struggling like that physically and you're having a hard time finishing races and you're at the back of the pack. it takes a completely different kind of mental fortitude to keep going when, you see all of these people around you that are just whizzing by you and passing by you, and you're, back there gasping for air kind of thing. It's a very different mindset. And I'm in such a unique position because I don't know anybody else that can say they went from, getting swept from races, from being too slow to winning the Boston Marathon. So, I try to remember that and really encourage, especially those athletes that are at the back of the pack and struggling, because I know what they're going through. I was there. I've been there. And I know that's tough. It's tough physically, it's tough mentally. And it's tough to get back up and keep yourself going when you're struggling that much.
Yeah. And obviously, thanks for sharing the story on the podcast, and have the documentary. If only there was a book. No.
Maybe
so
someday.
do you plan on doing the Houston again, or are you going to want to cheer? What are you thinking?
I will. Yeah, I'll continue to do Houston because that's my hometown race. It's the one where all my friends and family can go and cheer. And it's just it's the community there. And, all of my friends do that race, and just the lead up to it. It's so exciting. And Houston is such a great race for athletes with disabilities. It's so inclusive, and they include so many different types of disabilities, and and duos and hand cycles and push rims, and the mobility impaired runners and visually impaired runners. And it's important to me to do the Houston Marathon, to try to encourage other athletes with disabilities, but just to be a part of that, because I love the running community so much. That's my roots. My roots are the running community. Even though I'm doing cycling races now, my roots aren't in the cycling community. My roots are in the running community. And my husband's a runner, and all of my friends are runners. So I'll continue to do the Houston Marathon. And this year is the 10th anniversary of the Athletes with Disabilities program for the Houston Marathon too. So
Awesome.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people I've interviewed, ambassadors for the marathon, people that have been in Team Catapult and of Keeley's, and it's just so amazing watching the community come together, whether you're an athlete or a guide or a spouse, or it's crazy to see all AMC's Angels is there as well. I've pushed with them before, not at a marathon, at a 5K. Yeah. I'm not crazy. I'm not that strong, but not to show any disrespect to other major marathons. But do you think Houston, no bias aside that it's your hometown, like, does it feel like more of a VIP experience than other marathons for the average person?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I encourage people all the time to come do the Houston Marathon. I've done races all over the country, but there's something about the Houston Marathon to me that's just different. And, my husband and I, we always make a weekend of it too. We stay at, either the Marriott Marquis or the Hilton Americas. So we're right there. And, you get a hotel downtown and everything is right there. It's within walking distance. And if you stay in the Hilton or the Marriott, you can use the walkways to get over to the convention center. You don't even have to go outside. And, and I love it because in race morning, you're inside the convention center. If it's raining or it's cold or whatever, you can stay inside the convention center to stay warm. And, and there's no other races that have stuff like that. They're just, there's just not. And then they've got, the breakfast afterwards and, the swag. It's so much better than most races.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're totally spoiled. That was my first two. And I'm just
we are so spoiled. We are so spoiled here in Houston. So, Houston Marathon, it's just, it's phenomenal, phenomenal. And I don't think a lot of people really realize just how good a race it is on so many different fronts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially for the VIP is always VIP, but for the average runners and back of the packers, it's just what in the world? It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic. Love it.
Okay, so you're looking Race Across West. So the next year, so you have how many months to train?
Right now, I'm kind of in my off season, and I'm still kind of recovering from Race Across the West, which I'm so bad at taking it easy. I don't do easy well, so I keep getting in trouble with my coach because I'm working too hard during my workouts. And I have my coaching license. I know better, but actually that's why I have a coach, because if I was left to my own devices, I'd be going way harder than I should right now. So I'm kind of in my off season, slowly starting now to build my base back up, all of that. And then in October, I'm doing 100K race out in Far West Texas in Marfa.
Oh, nice.
And that's kind of a warm-up race for the 24-hour World Time Trial Championships in November. So that's my next big one. I'm going to be training really hard for that because I'd like to go out there and set a record. We'll see. And then I'll do the Houston Marathon in January. I won't train specifically for that. That'll just be kind of, thrown in there. And then
I just won't train for a marathon. Just show up.
I know it's such a warped perspective on stuff that I have. That's why I always try to remind myself, okay, remember where you came from. But your way of thinking about stuff, it changes as you develop as an athlete too. So in February, it looks like I'm going to do a 500-mile race in Florida that starts in Jacksonville and ends in Key West. And that'll be kind of a warm-up for Race Across the West next year. So, wow. And that'll be back in June again.
So it's a 500. Is that a non-stopper, or how does that work out?
Nonstop.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Yeah. Just like Race Across the West. So yeah. Yep. Around the clock.
So how often did you stop for raw?
Way more than I should have. So that's the biggest thing we figured out is we stopped, and we spent more time stopped than I should have. And that's why I didn't hit the time cutoff. My average moving speed was what it needed to be to finish on time, but we just stopped too much. So we stopped every 3 to 4 hours for bathroom break, feed me, that sort of thing. I slept about an hour and a half a day. So most of the stops, what should have been maybe 15 or 20 minutes because one of the things, and it's just something that my crew and I've got to get faster about. It just takes time to transfer out of my hand cycle into my wheelchair, and then from the wheelchair to the bathroom back to the wheelchair, that sort of thing. And then, you're trying to change into dry clothes, because if you keep a wet, soggy jersey on for hours and days on end, you're going to end up with all kinds of chafing, and then you have to worry about pressure sores and this and that. So, it's a lot. The logistics of doing a race like that, it's just insane. It's just crazy. So yeah, we stopped every 3 to 4 hours around the clock, trying to make them as quick as possible. They were not as fast as they should have been. So, and that's where we have room to improve, me and my crew. So stuff we're going to work on this year.
Okay. So just a little bit more efficient and you're good. That's awesome.
Exactly. Okay. We've got to be more efficient. That's the bottom line. We have to be more efficient. So
yeah, there's so much, we'll definitely have you back on because there's so much I want to talk about, the training schedules and all that. And by that time you'll do another 1,000 couple miles in racing and everything else that. Which awesome.
And I could spend hours really just talking about, the training schedule and what we did to prepare, and the logistics and the equipment we had, and the nutrition and the hydration, and just Yeah, all of that.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy, crazy.
Yeah, I'll definitely put a link to your blog, your website, Instagram handles. I'll keep pressuring you to record audios for a book. You name it.
There you go. Yes.
Because it's like, I hate to use a cliche, but it's all about the journey, and you're within the journey is where the meat of the book is. It's almost like you don't want an ending to any book, especially for an athlete. I think it's just always like a what's next type of thing.
What's next? Right. That's what I'm always thinking about. Okay, what's next? What's next? I did that. Now, how can we improve it? Or what am I going to do next? Or
Mm-hmm. Cool. But before I let you go, I got 3 more questions. So it's called lightning round. And Wendy, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, I know you have a lot of races coming up, a lot on the schedule, and you're always what's next. But ultimately, that's not already in your schedule. What would be like your ultimate dream race that you want to do?
Race across America. Okay. I want to go all the way from Oceanside to Annapolis. Yeah, wow. That's the dream. That's the dream.
Ooh, well, speaking of with people, if you could cycle with with anybody, alive or past, and just hang out, talk while working out, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. So honestly, it would be my mom. My mom passed away many, many years ago. So, she never lived to see any of this. And she was really into fitness and stuff like that. So if I could cycle with anybody, it would be my mom.
Wow. And the last one, I noticed you have a Disney type theme or obsession. Not really sure.
We could call it what it is. It's an obsession.
Yeah. Okay. It's kind of all over the place, but this could be a little bit polarizing. But what's your favorite Disney movie?
Favorite Disney movie? I think Peter Pan.
Oh, old school. I like it.
Old school. Yes. Yeah. The thought of never growing up, and then Tinkerbell and being able to fly, and yeah.
Well, once again, Wendy, thank you so much. Look forward to having you back on, and good luck on all the crazy races. We look forward to viewing and watching on your Instagram.
Awesome.
And we'll catch you at the Houston Marathon.
Okay. Thanks. It's been great talking to you.
As always, if you want to become the first to find out about upcoming weekly episodes, simply hit the plus, follow, subscribe button. Depends on your podcast platform. And if you're on a podcast app where you can leave a rating and review, we always love it. Hey, give us 5 stars if you like it. And if you don't like it, give us 5 stars anyways. You made it through the whole episode. But more importantly, looking forward to sharing another episode next week.
Thanks for visiting the Houston Running Zone. If you know someone you'd like to be featured in the zone, go to thehoustonrunningzone.com and send us a message. Until next week, always remember, Houston, we've got the runs.